The mysterious newcomer. Zane Ryers wiped the sweat from his brow as he finished rewiring the stabilizer on a battered cargo hauler. Just another day in the life of the best, and only, mechanic on Nexus Prime, the bustling space station orbiting the desert planet Kadar. Ryers, barked Overseer Grint, the burly human in charge of the docking bay. Got a priority repair job for you. Some hotshot with a fancy ship. Dock 47. Zane sighed, grabbing his toolkit. Priority usually meant rushed, difficult, and underpaid. Still, it beat sitting around waiting for the next malfunctioning garbage go. As he approached Dock 47, Zane let out a low whistle. The sleek silver vessel berthed there was unlike anything he'd seen before. Elegant curves, no visible seams, and an iridescent sheen that seemed to defy the harsh station lighting. Definitely not the usual junkers he worked on. "You, Ryers." A melodic voice brought his attention to the figure standing at the base of the ship's ramp. The alien woman was tall and willowy, with pale blue skin and long white hair that seemed to float around her face. Her eyes were a piercing violet, and she wore a form-fitting black jumpsuit that left little to the imagination. Zane cleared his throat. "That's me, Zane Ryers, mechanic extraordinaire, at your service." "And you are?" "Asha Kerrigan," she replied, her gaze intense. "I require your assistance with repairs to my ship's quantum drive." "Quantum drive?" Zane raised an eyebrow. "Lady, we're lucky to keep basic sublight engines running around here." Asha's expression remained inscrutable. "I was told you were the best." Zane shrugged. "I'm the only, but I'll take a look." As he followed Asha onto her ship, Zane couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to this mysterious visitor than met the eye. The interior was as impressive as the exterior, all gleaming surfaces and holographic displays, a far cry from the grease-stained corridors of Nexus Prime. The quantum drive itself was a marvel of engineering, a pulsing sphere of blue-white energy, contained within a complex lattice of components Zane couldn't even begin to identify. "What seems to be the problem?" he asked, trying to sound more confident than he felt. Asha hesitated, as if weighing how much to reveal. "There was a malfunction during my last jump. Several key components were overloaded. I was lucky to make it here at all." Zane nodded, already running through possible solutions in his head. "I'll need to run some diagnostics, maybe fabricate some replacement parts. It'll take time." "Time is a luxury I don't have," Asha interrupted. "I am being pursued. It is imperative that I repair my ship and depart Nexus Prime as soon as possible." Her urgency, her ship, her very presence here, it all hinted at a larger story, one Zane found himself inexorably drawn to. Against his better judgment, he felt the old itch for adventure stirring in his blood, the same one that had driven him to this far-flung corner of the galaxy in the first place. "I'll do what I can," he promised. And as he set to work, surrounded by alien technology far beyond his ken, with a mysterious and alluring stranger watching his every move, Zane Ryers couldn't shake the feeling that his life was about to change in ways he could never have imagined. As the hours turned into days, Zane found himself spending more and more time with Asha, working on her ship. The quantum drive was unlike anything he'd ever seen, and even with his considerable skills, progress was slow. But it wasn't just the technical challenge that kept him coming back. There was something about Asha herself, her quiet intensity, her razor-sharp intellect, the way she looked at him with those violet eyes that seemed to see right through to his core. In stolen moments between repairs, they talked, at first just about the ship and the repairs, but gradually, tentatively, about their lives, their pasts, their dreams for the future. Asha was guarded, evasive even, about the specifics of her situation. But Zane gathered that she was on the run from something or someone, that the advanced technology of her ship was both her greatest asset and her greatest liability. For his part, Zane found himself opening up to her in a way he never had with anyone else. He told her about growing up on a backwater colony world, about his restless spirit, and his never-ending quest for something more. "And have you found it?" Asha asked one night as they sat in the cockpit of her ship, sharing a bottle of Zane's favorite whiskey. "That's something more." Zane took a long swig, feeling the burn of the alcohol in his throat. "I thought I had, when I first came to Nexus Prime. But now," he met her gaze, saw the unspoken understanding there. "Now I'm not so sure." There was a long moment of silence, charged with a tension that Zane couldn't quite define. Then Asha leaned in, her face mere inches from his. "Maybe," she whispered, her breath hot against his skin, "you've been looking in the wrong places." And then her lips were on his, and everything else faded away. The ship, the station, the whole damn galaxy, none of it mattered. There was only Asha, the feel of her body against his, the fire that ignited between them. When they finally broke apart, breathless and flushed, Zane knew with a certainty that defied logic that his life would never be the same. That Asha Kerrigan had changed everything. "Asha," he began, his voice rough with emotion. But before he could continue, an alarm blared through the ship, harsh and urgent. Asha sprang to her feet, her face instantly transformed into a mask of cold determination. "They found me," she said, her fingers flying over the control panel. "The Vorian Dominion. They've tracked me here." Zane felt a chill run down his spine at the name. The Vorian Dominion. The most powerful, most ruthless faction in the known galaxy, whispered about in dark corners, feared even by the fearless. And they were here. For Asha. He looked at her, saw the fear she couldn't quite hide behind her steely resolve. And in that moment, Zane Ryers made a decision that would change the course of his life forever. "Let me help you," he said, standing to face her. "Let me fight with you." Asha shook her head. "Zane, no. This isn't your fight. The Vorians, you have no idea what they're capable of. I can't ask you to." "You're not asking," Zane interrupted. "I'm offering. I'm choosing this. Choosing you." He took her hand, met her gaze with a determination that matched her own. "You said it yourself. Maybe I've been looking in the wrong places. Well, I'm done looking. I've found what I've been searching for. It's you, Asha. It's this. And I'll be damned if I let the Vorian Dominion or anyone else take that away from me." For a long moment, Asha stared at him, her violet eyes searching his face. Then, slowly, a smile curved her lips, a real smile, warm and genuine, and filled with a hope that took Zane's breath away. "Okay," she whispered. "Okay. Let's do this. Together." And as the alarms continued to blare and the shadow of the Vorian Dominion loomed over them, Zane Ryers, the mechanic from Nexus Prime, and Asha Kerrigan, the mysterious stranger who had stolen his heart, stood side by side, ready to face whatever the universe had in store for them. Together. An unexpected connection. As the days turned into weeks, Zane and Asha worked tirelessly on the quantum drive, their initial wariness giving way to a growing sense of camaraderie. Asha's ship, which she called the Zephyr, was a marvel of advanced technology, and Zane found himself learning more in those few weeks than he had in years of tinkering with standard engines. But it wasn't just the work that drew them together. In the quiet moments between repairs, they began to share stories of their pasts, their hopes, their fears. Zane told Asha of his childhood on the arid mining colony of Verax II, of the restless energy that had driven him to seek out a life among the stars. Asha, in turn, spoke of her homeworld, a lush green planet called Etheria, and the rigid case system that had stifled her spirit and her dreams. "I was born into the engineer caste," she explained one evening as they sat in the Zephyr's small galley, nursing mugs of steaming Etherian tea. "My path was set from the moment I drew my first breath. But I wanted more. I knew I was meant for something greater." Zane nodded, understanding all too well the feeling of being trapped by circumstance. "So you left?" Asha's eyes grew distant. "I did. I stole a ship, this ship, and I ran. I've been running ever since. From what? Zane asked softly, sensing the pain beneath her words. Asha was silent for a long moment. Then, with a deep breath, she began to speak. The Vorian Dominion. They're not just a political power. They're a cult, a twisted religion that seeks to control every aspect of life in the galaxy. And they're led by a madman, a tyrant who calls himself the Archon. She shuddered, and Zane instinctively reached out to take her hand. Asha gripped it tightly, as if anchoring herself to his touch. The Archon wants the Zephyr, wants the secrets of its quantum drive. With that kind of technology, the Vorians would be unstoppable. I couldn't let that happen. So I ran, and I've been running ever since. Zane felt a surge of protectiveness, a fierce desire to shield this brave, beautiful woman from the evils that pursued her. You're not alone anymore, he said firmly. I'm with you, Asha. No matter what. Asha looked at him, her violet eyes shimmering with unshed tears. Zane, I can't ask you to. You're not asking, Zane interrupted. I'm offering. I'm choosing this. Choosing you. And then he was kissing her, pouring all of his longing, all of his admiration, all of his nascent love into the press of his lips against hers. Asha stiffened for a moment, then melted into his embrace, her arms winding around his neck as she returned the kiss with equal fervor. When they finally broke apart, breathless and flushed, Zane rested his forehead against hers. We're in this together, he whispered. No matter what happens, no matter what the Vorians throw at us, we'll face it side by side. Asha nodded, a smile curving her lips even as a single tear tracked down her cheek. Together, she echoed. I like the sound of that. And in that moment, on a battered old space station at the edge of known space, a human mechanic and an Aetherian fugitive forged a bond that would change the course of both their lives and perhaps the fate of the galaxy itself. For in each other, they had found something they had both been searching for all their lives, a partner, a confidant, a soulmate. And together, they knew they could face anything the universe had in store for them. As the weeks passed, Zane and Asha grew ever closer, their bond deepening with each shared moment. Each whispered confidence, each gentle touch. The repairs on the Zephyr progressed slowly but steadily, hampered by the difficulty in sourcing compatible parts on a station as remote as Nexus Prime. But even as they worked to make the ship spaceworthy once more, a new plan began to take shape in their minds. They both knew that simply fleeing the Vorian Dominion was no longer enough, not when the fate of countless worlds hung in the balance. We have to stop them, Asha said one night as they lay entwined in the narrow bunk of Zane's quarters. The Archon, the Vorians, if they get their hands on quantum technology, there will be no stopping them. They'll enslave the entire galaxy. Zane nodded, his fingers tracing idle patterns on the soft blue skin of her bare shoulder. But how? We're just two people, Asha. The Vorians have armies, fleets. Asha propped herself up on one elbow, her eyes gleaming with a fierce determination. We have something they don't. We have the Zephyr. With a working quantum drive, we could strike at the heart of their operation, hit them where they least expect it. Zane frowned. It's a huge risk. We'd be flying straight into the lion's den. I know. Asha's voice was soft, but there was a steely resolve beneath it. But it's a risk we have to take. For the sake of everyone in the galaxy. For our sake. Because as long as the Archon is out there, we'll never be truly free. Zane was silent for a long moment, weighing the enormity of what Asha was proposing. It was a suicide mission, a desperate gambit against impossible odds. But as he looked into her eyes, saw the fire and the fear and the love that burned there, he knew he would follow her into the very jaws of hell if she asked him to. Okay, he said at last, pulling her close. Okay, we'll do it. Together. Asha smiled, a fierce, bright thing that seemed to light up the darkened room. Together, she echoed, sealing the word with a kiss. And so, in the quiet spaces between repairs and preparations, Zane and Asha began to plan their assault on the Vorian Dominion. They pored over star charts and intelligence reports, piecing together a picture of the Vorians' strongholds and supply lines. They modified the Zephyr, retrofitting Zane's small repair shuttle with advanced weaponry and shielding, turning it into a lean, mean fighting machine. Throughout it all, their love for each other grew and deepened, a bright flame against the darkness that threatened to engulf them. In Asha, Zane had found a partner, a purpose, a reason to fight. And in Zane, Asha had found a home, a safe harbor, a love that gave her the strength to face her demons. They knew the risks they were taking, knew the odds were stacked against them, but they also knew that they had no choice. For the sake of the galaxy, for the sake of their love, they had to try. And so, on a quiet night cycle, as the hum of Nexus Prime's engines faded to a distant thrum, Zane Ryers and Asha Kerrigan made their final preparations. They loaded the last of the supplies, checked and double-checked their weapons and systems. Then, with a final fierce embrace and a whispered promise to return to each other, they boarded their ships. Asha in the sleek Zephyr, Zane in his modified shuttle, and set out to face their destiny. The stars stretched out before them, cold and endless, and full of untold dangers. But they faced them together, a human and an Aetherian, two hearts beating as one, ready to risk everything for the chance at a future, free from the shadow of tyranny. Ready to fight, to win, to love. Together. The risky plan. The Zephyr hung in space, a sleek silver arrow poised on the bowstring of the cosmos. Inside the ship's cockpit, Zane and Asha hunched over the control panel, their faces lit by the eerie glow of the holographic displays. "There," Asha said, pointing to a pulsing red dot on the star map. "That's our target. The Vorian Dominion's main shipyard, orbiting the gas giant Pyraxis Prime." Zane let out a low whistle. "It's heavily guarded. They've got a whole fleet stationed there." Asha nodded grimly. "It won't be easy, but if we can take out that shipyard, we'll cripple their ability to build and maintain their warships. It's a critical blow." Zane studied the readouts, his brow furrowed in concentration. "We'll need to come in fast and hard. The quantum drive will give us the element of surprise, but we'll only have a small window before they scramble their fighters." "That's where your shuttle comes in," Asha said, bringing up a schematic of the modified repair craft. "With the weapons we've installed, it's essentially a gunship. You'll need to keep those fighters off my back long enough for me to target the shipyard's reactor core." Zane felt a thrill of fear and exhilaration course through him. This was it, the moment they had been planning for, preparing for. The moment that would decide the fate of the galaxy. "I'm with you," he said, reaching out to take Asha's hand. "To the end." Asha gripped his fingers tightly, her violet eyes shining with love and determination. "To the end," she echoed. They spent the next few hours going over every detail of the plan, running simulations, checking and rechecking their systems. They both knew the risks they were taking, knew that there was a very real chance they might not come back from this mission. But they also knew that they had no choice. The Vorian Dominion had to be stopped, no matter the cost. As the time for their assault drew near, Zane and Asha stood in the Zephyr's airlock, suited up and ready for battle. Zane's heart was pounding, his blood singing with adrenaline. But underneath the fear and the excitement, there was a deep, steady certainty. A knowledge that this was what he was meant to do, that this was where he was meant to be. With Asha, fighting for what was right. "Zane," Asha said softly, her voice crackling over the comlink in his helmet. "Before we do this, I need to tell you something." Zane turned to face her, saw the emotion shimmering in her eyes behind her visor. "What is it?" "I love you," Asha said simply. "I didn't plan on it, didn't expect it. But somewhere along the way, between all the repairs and the planning and the running, I fell in love with you. And I need you to know that, no matter what happens today." Zane felt his heart swell, a wave of pure, fierce joy washing over him. "I love you too," Asha. More than anything. More than life itself. He reached out, pulling her into a tight embrace, their armored suits clanking together. They held each other for a long moment, savoring the feel of each other, the knowledge of their love. Then, with a final squeeze and a whispered "see you on the other side," they parted. Zane boarded his shuttle, his hand steady on the controls as he powered up the engines. Over the comm, he heard Ash's voice, strong and clear. "Ready?" "Ready," Zane confirmed. Together, the Zephyr and the modified shuttle leaped forward, the quantum drive engaging with a silent flash of light. The stars blurred and elongated as they hurtled through the fabric of spacetime, the advanced technology propelling them faster than any conventional drive could manage. In what seemed like both an eternity and an instant, they dropped out of quantum space, the massive bulk of Pyraxis Prime looming before them. And there, orbiting the swirling orange and red storms of the gas giant, was their target, the Vorian Dominion shipyard. It was a monstrous construction, a sprawling complex of docks and factories and repair bays, bristling with weapons emplacements. And surrounding it, a swarm of Vorian warships, their angular black hulls gleaming in the light of the nearby star. For a moment, the sheer scale of the task before them seemed to press down on Zane, threatening to crush his resolve. But then Ash's voice crackled over the comm, fierce and determined. "Let's do this. For the galaxy. For us." And with those words, Zane felt his courage surge anew. His grip tightened on the shuttle's controls, his eyes narrowing as he targeted the nearest Vorian fighter. "For us," he echoed. And then, with a roar of engines and a blaze of weapons fire, they charged into the fray, ready to face their fate together. The battle was joined, the fate of the galaxy hanging in the balance. And at the heart of it all, a human and an Aetherian, fighting side by side, their love a beacon of hope in the darkness of war. The fateful battle. Space erupted into chaos as Zane and Asha hurtled towards the Vorian shipyard. Instantly, the Dominion ships reacted, a swarm of sleek black fighters peeling off to intercept the intruders. "Here they come," Zane yelled over the comm, his hands flying over the controls of his modified shuttle. "I'll try to keep them off you. Make your run on the shipyard." "Be careful," Ash's voice crackled in response, tense but determined. "I'll see you on the other side." Then there was no more time for words. The Vorian fighters were upon them, filling the void with a crisscross of lethal energy beams. Zane jinked and juked, pushing his shuttle to its limits as he returned fire, the newly installed weapons sending searing lances of destruction into the enemy formation. Out of the corner of his eye, he saw the Zephyr dart forward, Asha taking advantage of the opening he created. Her sleek ship danced and wove through the hail of fire, quantum engines flaring as she pushed towards the looming shipyard. But the Vorians were quick to react. A squadron of heavy interceptors, bristling with guns, moved to block Ash's path, their hulls shimmering with the telltale glow of advanced shielding. "Asha, you've got incoming," Zane warned, even as he twisted his shuttle into a spiral to avoid a barrage of missile fire. Heavy interceptors, dead ahead. "I see them," Asha replied, her voice strained. "Trying to flank. Just keep those fighters off me a little longer." Zane gritted his teeth, throwing his shuttle into a dizzying series of maneuvers. His fingers danced over the weapon controls, triggering rapid-fire bursts that sent Vorian fighters tumbling away in clouds of shrapnel and flame. But for every enemy he destroyed, two more seemed to take its place. The Vorian ships were technologically advanced, heavily armored and shielded. And there were so many of them, an endless tide of black metal and deadly energy. Slowly, inexorably, they began to box him in, forcing him away from Asha, away from the shipyard. Zane's shuttle shuddered as a blast hammered into his shields, warning lights flashing red across his console. "Shields at 20%, he muttered, sweat beading on his forehead beneath his helmet. "Asha, I don't know how much longer I can hold them." For a moment, there was only static on the comm. Then Asha's voice, fierce and determined. I'm almost there. Just a little longer, my love. Just a little longer. Love. The word seemed to echo in the confines of Zane's cockpit, filling him with a strength he didn't know he possessed. Asha loved him, and he loved her. And that love, that unbreakable bond, was worth fighting for, worth dying for. With a roar of defiance, Zane wrenched his battered shuttle into a steep climb, drawing the Vorian fighters up and away from Asha's approach. He spiraled and looped, his weapons blazing, a deadly dance of skill and desperation. And through the chaos, through the fire and the fury, he saw the Zephyr, a silver arrow streaking towards the heart of the shipyard, towards the massive reactor that powered the entire complex. I'm in range, Asha's voice crackled over the comm, preparing to fire the resonance torpedo. Zane, you need to get clear of the blast radius. Now. But Zane couldn't break off, not with a swarm of Vorian ships still on his tail. If he disengaged now, they would be all over Asha in seconds. Negative, he replied, his voice steady despite the fear that clutched at his heart. I'll keep them busy. You take the shot. Finish this. Zane, no. Asha's cry was anguished, desperate. I can't lose you. I won't. You'll never lose me, Zane said softly. I'm with you always, in this life and the next. Now take the shot, my love. For us. For the galaxy. There was a moment of silence. Then, a whispered I love you over the comm. And then the Zephyr's torpedo launchers flared, a brilliant lance of energy streaking towards the heart of the shipyard. Zane watched it go, a smile on his lips even as the Vorian ships closed in around him, their weapons hammering at his failing shields. The torpedo struck, and for a moment there was only light, a blinding, searing radiance that engulfed the shipyard, the Vorian fleet, everything. Zane closed his eyes, Asha's face filling his mind, her love filling his heart. And then the world dissolved into fire and fury, and Zane Ryers knew no more. In the silence that followed, in the drifting debris and the fading light, a single ship emerged, battered, scorched, but unbroken. The Zephyr limped away from the ruins of the Vorian shipyard, its quantum engines flickering. And in its cockpit, Asha Kerrigan wept, her heart shattered, her love lost among the stars. But even in her grief, there was a spark of hope. For Zane's sacrifice had not been in vain. The Vorian Dominion had been dealt a blow from which it would not soon recover. The galaxy had been given a chance, a fragile opportunity for freedom. And somewhere out there, in the vast expanse of the universe, Asha knew that Zane's spirit lived on, that their love, forged in the heart of battle, tempered by the fire of sacrifice, would endure. Always, a new horizon. The Zephyr drifted through the silent void, its silver hull scared and pitted from the ferocious battle. In the ship's cockpit, Asha Kerrigan sat motionless, her violet eyes staring blankly at the stars that stretched endlessly before her. She felt numb, hollow, as if the fire that had once burned so brightly within her had been extinguished, snuffed out by the crushing weight of grief. Zane was gone, his life given in the defense of all they had fought for, all they had believed in. And yet, even in the depths of her sorrow, Asha knew that his sacrifice had not been in vain. The Vorian shipyard was destroyed, their fleet scattered, their dreams of galactic domination shattered. It was a blow from which the Dominion would not soon recover, a chance for the free peoples of the galaxy to rally, to resist. A chance that Zane had bought with his blood, with his unwavering courage and selfless love. Slowly, painfully, Asha forced herself to look away from the stars, to focus on the console before her. The Zephyr systems were badly damaged, its quantum drive flickering on the edge of failure. She needed to find a safe harbor, a place to repair and regroup. But more than that, she needed to find a way forward, a way to honor Zane's memory, to carry on the fight they had begun together. With a deep breath, Asha began to work, her fingers dancing over the controls as she coaxed life back into the Zephyr's wounded systems. It was a slow process, a battle against fatigue and despair, but gradually the ship began to respond, its engines stabilizing, its course steadying. And as she worked, Asha felt a new resolve taking root within her, a determination born of love and loss, and the unquenchable desire for justice. She would not let Zane's death be in vain. She would not let the Vorian dominion rise again to threaten the freedom of the galaxy. She would fight on, in Zane's name, and in the name of all those who had suffered under the Archon's tyrannical rule. Days turned into weeks as the Zephyr limped its way across the stars, Asha guiding it with a steady hand and an iron will. She reached out to old contacts, forged new alliances, gathering a network of resistance fighters and freedom seekers. And always, always, she carried Zane in her heart, his love a constant presence, a guiding light in the darkness of her grief. Finally, after a journey that had tested the limits of both ship and pilot, the Zephyr emerged from quantum space above a lush green world, a planet untouched by the ravages of war and oppression. Aetheria, Asha's homeworld, the place she had fled so long ago in search of a destiny greater than the one ordained for her. As she guided the ship down through the atmosphere, Asha felt a strange mix of emotions, nostalgia and pain, hope and uncertainty. She had changed so much since she had last set foot on this world, had seen and done, and lost so much. But as the Zephyr touched down on a grassy plain, as the hatch hissed open, and Asha stepped out onto the soil of her birth, she felt a sense of rightness, of coming full circle. This was where she was meant to be. This was where the next chapter of her story would begin. In the days and weeks that followed, Asha threw herself into her work with a passion bordering on obsession. She met with leaders and warriors, politicians and scientists, forging the disparate threads of resistance into a united front against the Vorian threat. And as she worked, as she fought and planned and dreamed, she began to hear whispers, rumors of a figure emerging from the shadows of the Dominion's defeat, a leader, a visionary, a beacon of hope for all those who had suffered under the Archon's cruel reign. They called her the Phoenix, the one who had risen from the ashes of despair to ignite the flames of rebellion. And as Asha listened to these tales, as she saw the fire of determination kindling in the eyes of those around her, she began to understand. This was her destiny. This was the path that Zane's love and sacrifice had opened for her. She was the Phoenix. She was the light in the darkness, the hope in the face of tyranny. And with Zane's memory forever etched in her heart, with the strength of their love driving her forward, she would lead this fight, this crusade for freedom. To the ends of the galaxy and beyond, she would carry the torch of resistance. For Zane, for Aetheria, for all those who yearned to be free, a new horizon stretched before her, a future filled with danger and uncertainty, but also with the promise of hope, of change, of a galaxy reborn. And Asha Kerrigan, the girl who had once dreamed of a life beyond the confines of her caste, the woman who had found love and purpose in the heart of a human rebel, stepped forward to meet it. Her eyes blazed with the fire of 1,000 suns. Her heart sang with the memory of a love that would never die. She was ready, ready to fight, to lead, to win. For she was the Phoenix, and she would rise.